everyone, welcome to our 8th session. We have a very interesting topic today. So, last class we learned about animals in comics, and before that, we learned how to draw comics with humans as characters. So, can you guess what else from real life we can turn into comic characters? A hint is that it's all around you. So, not only we can turn living things such as humans and animals into comic characters, we can also turn non-living things into comic characters. And also plants are technically living things, but they don't have facial expressions, so they're less commonly found. So apart from humans and animals, objects can also be comic characters. And that is why we have a special title today, which is Turn the World into Comics. You can now look at the world through another perspective and turn objects into unique comic stories and drawings. So let's first take a look at some of the fun examples of comics with objects as the characters. So in this first comic, the plant is the character. So in the first panel, the plant is like almost dead. The plant says, "Mother, why?" And then the second one, the human waters the plants, and the plant says, "Thank you, mother." That's a very simple comic about a plant as a main character. And then the second one is a tomato and a piece of cheese with many funny facial expressions as the characters. And it's a comic about funny puns. And then the third one is a comic, a very simple comic with a light bulb and a firefly as the main characters. So all of these comics have different styles, but they all have unique objects as characters, and all these objects have different expressions and personalities and poses. Here are some more examples. So this first one is a notepad, actually two notepads as the main characters. And one is a normal notepad and the other one is a notepad with these rings. So the spiral bound notepads. And then this one, the second one, is about two trees growing up next to each other. And then in the end, their roots meet. And the third one is another comic about plants. This one is about a cactus, and it's a very different style, so it's drawn with pencil crayon. So all of these, once again, have different characters and different objects as characters, but they all have funny expressions, and they all have humor, and they're all different styles. So now let's move on to see how we can turn ordinary, non-living objects into characters with unique personalities and looks. So for this, you can imagine that you're a magician because, all artists are like magicians. We take like things that are normal to most people and we turn it into something beautiful or funny. So imagine you're a magician and you want to make a non-living object alive. So first, you want to still keep the object's unique features so that the object still looks like the object. So here's an example of a comic with a mug, and then on the right there's there's a photo of a mug. So the artist drew the mug as a character, but still kept the cylinder shape and the little handle over here. So it doesn't have to be completely realistic, but the unique features are kept, so it still looks like a mug. Now it's time to think about what personality you want to give the object. The personality of the object is up to you to decide, but there are some features about different objects that can suggest their personalities. So for example, how the object looks or what the object's function is. So here on the on the slide, you can see this very simple comic, two-panel comic, about a banana. So first it says, before a kid calls you sir, and the banana feels very young, and then after a kid calls you sir, so the banana feels very old. And then you can see two images of bananas. So the first one, the banana is very yellow, very smooth. It looks very young. And then the second one, it's a bit rotten, so there's some brown spots, and that suggests that the banana is old. So when you turn it into a comic character, you can sort of give it a more older personality. And then for the smoother and no, a banana with no spots, you can give it a younger personality. And some more examples are like round fruits are as children, or big and tall trees as wise and old grandparents, or race cars as cool young adults, and then the moon as a gentle mother or something like that. And there are many more examples. So you can give your object a personality based on how it looks or how it functions, and it's up to you to choose the personality. Now it's time to wave the wand and make your object alive. So after you decide its looks, its features, and its personality, it's time to add facial expressions, just like with human and animal characters. So here on the slide, you can see many comics by the same artist, I think, with these different objects with different personalities and facial features. So the first one, there's this avocado that needs to go to the bathroom, and then the second one, this it's a comic about this pencil before a haircut and then after a haircut. And then before the haircut, it looks very happy, it's very hopeful. It says, "Just a trim, please." And then after the haircut, its eyes are very wide and very big because it's very surprised to see that it's very short now. And then for the third one, there's this diamond that says before a workout and then after a workout. So before a workout, it's a bit nervous and scared. And then after the workout, it's very strong. So add facial expressions based on their personality. And a lot of your characters' expressions, so any character's expressions can be based on their personality. So for example, are they shy? Are they bold? Or are they friendly or clever or whatever? And also, if your object can't move on its own, for example, a pot or something, but if you want the object to be able to move in your comics, you can add limbs to the object. So for example, add simple arms and legs, just two sticks, and you can add fingers if you want, but it's up to you to decide. So finally, now that you've decided the object's expression and personality and looks and all that, you can bring your character into a comic world now. So when you're coming up with a story for non-living objects, first observe the common items around you in real life. So for example, in your kitchen there's food, or at your desk there's electronics and stationery, and around your house there are furniture, and then outside your house there are vehicles and buildings and so on. And you can even think about plants and organs inside you, or cells inside of your body, and they're technically living things, but they're not as commonly seen as comics. So you can also include things like that. Or you can think bigger and come up with stories about like talking planets and stars. So after you choose what objects you're going to use to tell your comic story, think about how the world would be like from the object's perspective. So for example, how would your computer feel every day? Like maybe every lesson with Jazz Fun Comic Club. So how would it feel with you using it every day? Or maybe how a tree would feel in the forest. So after you decide that, you can start thinking about a story about the object. And when you're thinking about the story, remember to use the story structure. So if you're doing a 4-panel comic, the first panel would be about setting the scenery, so letting your readers or audience know what the story is going to be about. And then for the second panel, something starts to happen, and the third panel, something surprising happens, and then for the fourth panel, there's a dramatic ending, and it can end with a joke. So you can use like exaggerated facial expressions, funny facial expressions, and then different poses, and also use those surprising symbols. So here are two examples of comics about objects as the characters. So the first one is another comic about funny puns. So this one is a strawberry robbing a bank or a shop, and there's this radish over here, and then the radish finally says, "Hello, I'd like to report a strawberry." So that's the pun. And on the right, we have this comic about a tree and this types of like pine tree or Christmas tree. And the tree says, "Someday your day will come." And then the Christmas tree waits, and finally, until Christmas, they have all these decorations. So that's kind of, uh, this one is kind of about the tree's perspective. Here are more examples. So the first one is about Earth and the sun, and the Earth spinning around the sun, and each time it spins, the sun says happy birthday. So that would be from the planet's perspective. And then this one, we have a one panel simple comic, but it's still very funny. So this old telephone is in this house, and then these smaller smartphone says grandma. It's very simple, but there's a bit of humor to it. And then for the last one, the artist thought about a tea bag and the label on the tea bag as a owner and its pet, and the string that attaches them is the leash. So that is a very interesting perspective. Here we have a comic about a s'more. So the marshmallow here is saying absolute not. And then this fire over here and crackers and chocolate are waiting for the marshmallow. And they have very funny expressions here. And then here we have another comic about a pie. So they're celebrating Pi Day, and then real pies are over here waiting, and then the math pi is saying is taking holding a balloon and says Pi Day. That's another type of joke. We also have these funny comics about if objects and humans switch places. So here the gingerbread men are saying, "How are they?" And the other gingerbread men saying, "So good." So they're gingerbread men eating humans. And then here we have these broccoli. Then the broccoli mom or dad is saying, "You better finish your plate if you want any dessert, young man." So these comics about the perspective of objects if they traded places with humans. So that is also very interesting. Now, today's workshop is an interesting one, and it's still very fun. So here I have many different photos of non-living objects, and your task is to choose one of the photos and turn it into a comic. So look at the different objects in the photos and think about what their personality would be. Here we have this star fruit, and then these two race cars. Here we have a rocking chair, a house, a little cabin in the woods, a desktop computer. We have this lonely-ish tree, and then we have this pencil and eraser. So think about what you want their personalities to be like and how the objects would interact with each other. So for example, this red race car and this blue turquoise race car. So how would they interact? Are they friends or are they jealous of each other or whatever? And then also look at the photo as a whole and think about what type of story you want to tell. So for example, for the tree, do you want to talk about the tree being a bit lonely or the tree enjoying the landscape around it or something like that? So those are just some examples for inspiration. So now let's all get started drawing and have fun.